Welcome to the Power of One. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with a powerhouse. I met her maybe about a month ago, and I was immediately drawn to her beautiful spirit, her power, her passion, and she is a Navy veteran. And when she told me all the things that she did, I got chill bumps, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I am sitting next to a superhero." Forget about the superheroes on TV. She is truly a superhero, and I want you to sit back and get ready to hear her amazing story. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Melanie. Thank you for seeing something in me that was worthy of sharing with your audience. It is an absolute honor, and I feel the same way about you, my dear.
Thank you so much. So Jennifer, we had a conversation which I thought was sad, and then but it had such a happy ending. And you are a domestic violence survivor, but you were in the Navy and you did some amazing things in the Navy. So let's start out with your Navy career
Okay.
and when you went in and all the amazing things that you did.
So I am born and raised in York, Pennsylvania, and like many big, small towns, you sometimes lose your way, especially as a teenager. And I felt my parents did their job raising me to the age of 18. I was able to graduate high school. I wanted something more. And I knew if I stayed in my hometown, I would end up around the wrong people that would squash my flame. I didn't really know what it was called at that time, but the purpose of flame, that 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 why. So actually in 10th grade, I knew that I had the potential to do great and amazing things. And that's when I decided that I wanted to go into the Navy. But obviously, in 10th grade, I wasn't of age, so I joined a delayed entry program. And every week, I would go to the recruiting office and work on all the things that I would need to know in order to successfully get through boot camp. Once I graduated in 1991, by September, I raised my right hand and I was off to boot camp in Orlando, Florida. I knew that I wanted to make this a career. I wanted to sightsee. I wanted to travel. I wanted to earn money. I wanted to be independent. That was my goal, was to make a way and then also to give back to my family. So that paints the picture of my mindset of joining the United States Navy. I wanted to volunteer to serve my country. And that's what I did.
Now, you being an African American woman, at the time that you joined, was it hard? Again, being an African American woman, and did you tackle things and did you have successes that little to no African American women had?
Well, in the beginning, as a teenager, you're young, you're naive. You, I didn't see color,
Hmm.
and so I didn't go in with the mindset that I'm going to have struggles. In my mind, this is one fight, one team. This is the slogan, of the military, and I wanted to be a part of a community. In my first 4 years, I detected, localized, and tracked enemy ships and submarines. And I did it from like Alaska. Adak, Alaska was my first tour. And I was there for over 18 months. And I was closer to Russia than I was to the mainland of the United States. Um, I think just by my character, I stood out. But again, at that time, not looking at my gender or skin color. It wasn't until I decided that I wanted to be a naval air crewman, which was aviation, being a part of fixing airplanes and in-flight technician. I did that for 15 years. It wasn't until I went to the aircrew school how I realized I stood out where I was trying to fit in. When
Mhm.
I finally graduated aircrew school, I found out that I was the first African American woman to graduate in like 10 years. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding
Mhm.
me?
Mhm.
But it's still the magnitude didn't set in until I arrived to my first tour. So when military is male dominated, but then aviation is Caucasian male dominated. And here you have me. I went through all the training. I'm wearing my flight suit like Tom Cruise from Top Gun. I'm qualified. I'm trained. I work on electronics. I fly in the plane with the crew. So when I stepped into the office, the shop, it was like a record skipping. And I
Mhm.
was like, whoa, okay. Um, listen, we're shifting the atmosphere here. And I
Mhm.
definitely experienced the struggles of workplace bullying. Um, Melanie, change is hard to come by.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even through those struggles, it was my character and integrity that would eventually win many of the men that I worked with over. Now, there were some who were just deep rooted
Mhm.
in maybe it had nothing to do with color, maybe it was my gender. I don't know. I never asked. I just know I was treated differently. Many of your to paint that background in the military, you're going to find a lot of your minorities in your support type of jobs, your administrative type of jobs, even your culinary, fixing and serving food. You're not going to see many in the aviation realm.
Mhm.
So that was challenging where I had some dark times. And then when I went to, I want to just stop right there because I want to answer all your questions because there's so much.
So, okay, thank you so much for that. Now, did you do a lot with firearms?
Yes, in the military, uh, we had to be trained with firearms. I remember my first time ever shooting a gun. It was an M16 rifle, and that was in Adak, Alaska, because Adak, Alaska is on the Aleutian chain. And we were coming off of the Cold War with Russia and other countries. So you have to be able to defend any type of enemy invasion or anyone that means harm. So yeah, I
Mhm.
end up being an expert in the M16. And then I became a sharpshooter in the 9 millimeter and then a marksman in the shotgun through my military career. So, needless to say, I am not one to be messed with.
Needless to say, you are a bad sister, and I am so happy that we met. That's just awesome. And we're not condoning gun violence. We're not condoning any of that. This is speaking to your determination because you made
Yes,
up in your mind a long time
yes,
ago, this is what I want and this is what I'm going after. And
yes,
nobody is going to stop
yes,
me from doing that. And because you are an African American female, that is to be applauded because we have to always go above and beyond when we want
yes.
to do something. So I commend you for that. Now, in some of these challenges that you had to face on the naval base, unfortunately, you are also a survivor of domestic violence. Is that right?
Absolutely. And Melanie, I call myself I'm a survivor and thriver because there is to me a difference. A person can physically get out of the relationship of abuse, but still be held mentally and mentally and emotionally bound. They're stuck, stagnant, stifled as to how do they move forward after experiencing that trauma. I was in that area for
Mhm.
several years. And then that's when the healing began, the self reflections of let's get to the root. And now I found purpose from the pain and I'm a thriver. And that is the difference. I'm not taking anything away from anyone who says
Mhm.
they're surviving, but surviving is just existing. But when I
Mhm.
was in the thick of it, I experienced many poor relationships. And as I share with people, when you're going through adversity, when you're going through domestic violence, that's not the only adversity that life is going to hand you. So I also had, when I went to my next tour, I had workplace bullying, uh, people who try to sabotage my career because, again, I look different.
Mhm.
Again, change is hard to come by. By this time, the Kosovo War happened. That was in 1999. Then 9/11 happened. So now I'm flying combat missions in Iraq, Afghanistan. I'm, experiencing so much. And I know in a crew of 18, many times, Melanie, I'm the only female and I'm the only minority. So if
Mm.
my plane ever went down behind enemy lines or I had to jump out, whatever the case is, I knew just for the fact of my skin color and my gender and who the crew, the makeup of the crew, I knew that I would end up um, being killed, tortured, used to um, emotionally break my fellow crew members. And that
Mm.
is the mindset of being a naval air crewman and being ready regardless of the atmosphere and the circumstances. And so I tell people that I was in a war on three different fronts. I was
Mm.
in uh, an abusive relationship. I was flying combat missions, so the enemy was abroad, another country, and I was dealing with workplace bullying, that war. And I
Mhm.
had to compartmentalize in each situation in order to survive,
Mhm.
to keep
Mhm.
that smile on my face and to keep moving. And it wasn't so much the abuse that was going to break me where I actually had thoughts of suicide. It was the
Mhm.
workplace bullying because that's
Mm.
my career,
Mhm.
that's my livelihood, and that was the mindset of belonging.
Mhm.
And so just all of it is having a sense of belonging. But yes, in order to survive, I had to compartmentalize. And I tell people, due to my elite training as a naval air crewman, I was better prepared to be a prisoner of war than to deal with domestic violence.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is a very bold statement. But we don't talk about domestic violence like we need to. And that's why I honor you, Melanie, for having me on to even speak about this in hopes that someone watching will find strength, that they are not alone. They don't have to stay in guilt and shame, and that they too can be an overcomer.
Jennifer, what was your title in the Navy?
Um, so I was a naval air crewman. So there's different nomenclatures or what have you. So I was an avionics technician or an in-flight technician, where I
Infant.
fixed the elect. Yeah, I was an in-flight technician where I fixed the mission equipment during the flight so that we can continue to do the mission instead of having to return back to base and have the crew on the ground fix the mission equipment.
Okay. Now you spoke about being in the Navy and going through domestic violence. Your partner in the Navy, no names, was your partner in the Navy, and did you seek help among the Navy, because I do know that, and I'm not saying anything bad about any branch of the military, but I do know that in certain institutions, things are kept in house, whether that's the Navy, whether that's the Army, or the Air Force, and also some universities. Don't know whether they just don't want that information to get out. But did you seek help in house, and did you receive help in house?
So the first question is that the ex-boyfriend, the boyfriend at the time, he was in the Navy as well. So it was service member on service member abuse. I will say that because I ignored or didn't recognize the red flags, I didn't even realize what I was in. So the Navy, they do military wide, they give training every October on domestic violence. But the way that the training came forth was it painted the military spouse as the victim. It never lent to the service member experiencing it, and that there were services or resources available for the service member if they were victim. Now, even if I identified as a victim, because I was experiencing workplace bullying and trying to keep my head above water on that, I didn't even trust my leadership to even tell them what I was possibly
Mm,
experiencing. So I just kept that smile on my face. My friends did not know. They did not pick up anything when they saw me and the boyfriend together. They knew that his language, his behavior uh, in social settings were off, but they just laughed it off that that's just his character. But many times I experienced the punches in the stomach, the slaps across the face, the demeaning, the ridicule, the name calling, the financial abuse. So the physical was random, less, but the name calling, the emotional abuse, the financial, the invisible things that people can't see, that from the outside looking in, they would be quick to be like, nothing's wrong there. And because I'm a super extrovert and I love people, I found when I was away, you know, from home and I'm at work or I'm with my friends, I just I concentrated on that fun and joy at that time. So, no, I did not feel comfortable sharing with leadership. I didn't
mhm,
think that the resources applied to me because of the way the training was put out, and I suffered in silence.
mm, mm. Okay. Okay. So tomorrow, my sunshine will come. This is a book that you wrote. So you are an author, among other things. Tell us about the book and how people can order the book.
I wrote Tomorrow My Sunshine Will Come. Once I had the epiphany, I spoke at my church. The pastor's wife asked me to speak about whatever came to my mind. And it was the first time I ever experienced or shared that I experienced the abuse. And then there was women in the audience that said me that they experienced it too, and they shared the statistics. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you mean I'm not the only fool? I'm not the only one that this happened to? So there's strength in numbers. And that helped chip away at the shame and the guilt. And I thought to myself, if I felt this way, how many other women, I even know men get abused as well,
Yeah.
how many others are trapped in this, the shame, the guilt, the silence, because they think they're alone. And so I put it in my mind that I was going to write this book. It was initially supposed to be about my story, but as I was after I retired in 2013 and I was putting it in the atmosphere that I was writing this book, women that I was stationed with, admired, they were saying that they experienced it too. And I was like, wow. And it's not an anthology. I just took their stories with their permission. I wrote their story for them, and many were sharing their story for the very first time. So,
Mm,
tomorrow, My Sunshine Will Come, Memoirs of Women Who Survived Domestic Violence, chronicles 6 true stories of women. 5 out of the 6 experienced their abuse in the military.
mm, okay.
It just happened to be that because for 21 years, that's all I knew. And the title, I wanted to put a positive spin to such a negative uh, cause or circumstance that
Hmm.
tomorrow your sunshine will come. That, to provide that hope. And therefore, people, I have a website, www.inspirationallyspeaking.com. There is a tab that says book or buy book, and
Hmm.
they can read the description and they can click on the pay options. I'll receive a notification and I will mail out a personally autographed copy of my book. They can reach out in any manner. I'm on social media: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram are my main social medias that I deal with. So, email, website, I'm approachable, I'm touchable, I'm never beyond helping somebody. And that's what I love to do, is share my testimony to give someone courage that they can get through as well.
That is awesome. And I thank you for sharing your story and for opening up, because I'm sure there are some women who do not share and do not open up because it makes them feel even less of a person. They're
Right.
embarrassed. They're ashamed for what they went through. So anytime that I'm helping domestic violence victims, I never judge.
Right.
And I'm just here to help, because half the time people who say, "Oh, I wouldn't allow that," and you don't know what you would do, and unless
Exactly.
you're in that situation. So we should never judge anybody who's going through a domestic violence relationship, because you don't know. Children play a part in it. Like you said, the financial piece plays a part in it. Your safety plays
Yes.
part in it. So we have to be careful when we're helping those who are in domestic violence relationships. We have to be non-judgmental. We have to be loving. We have to extend an ear, and we have to be willing to help. So Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And
My
again, I
pleasure.
am happy. So there is one other superhero in my life, and that is my father, the Reverend Dr. John L. Payne. That's my Superman. But now I have a Wonder Woman in my life, and I'm super happy. I was Wonder Woman too, by the way, when I was a little bald headed little girl. I would tie a scarf around my head and put a napkin, and that was my bang because I ain't had no hair. And I would just run through the house. But now I have a real live Wonder Woman in my life. And I thank you for being you. I am so happy that we met. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for joining me today. For all of the viewers, our young African American sisters, the sky is the limit. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do. Make sure your future is full of positivity, growth, and advancement. But understand it's not going to be easy. So make sure you have a support system. And again, the sky is the limit, and you can do it. The power of one starts with you. Peace and love.